Yeah, just excited to do this teaching, excited to go into it. I'm excited because if we are fair income about applying it, it stands to make a real difference in how we engage with the people around us. So let's just pray. Dear Jesus, I just pray that as we engage with this wonderful story from the Gospel of Matthew, that you would open our ears and open our hearts and open our minds and to what you want to say to us, and don't just open us up as learners, but open us up as doers, that whatever you input into our hearts as we engage with your word will lead to action, will lead to transformation in how we engage with the world around us. Amen. We're going to read from Matthew chapter 8, verses 5 through to 13. So that's Matthew chapter 8, verses 5 through to 13. And so I'll just leave a moment and I'll start reading. So this is right on the back of last week we talked about, Jesus' first big miracle after his first big teaching in Matthew was this healing of the leper. And then we have this interaction with a Roman centurion. So let's read it. Matthew chapter 8 verses 5 through to 13 says this: When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. Jesus said to him, well, shall I come and heal him? The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west, and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then Jesus said to the centurion, go, let it be done just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed at that moment. First point I want to make today is anyone can come. Anyone can come. Anyone can come to Jesus and follow him. This story is about a Roman centurion showing faith in Jesus. And it's not just it's small faith, it's really big faith. I mean, I know there's this interesting exchange when Jesus offers to come and heal the guy. We have this interesting response, don't we, from the centurion. He says, well, Lord, I don't deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, and soldiers tell me, with authority, with soldiers under me, I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. And a simple way to understand a big part of what he's saying is, look, I know you have the authority. Sorry. I might just leave that in, I just smashed the camera. Anyway, we're all good? Let's go. He was saying to Jesus, I know you have the authority to do it. I don't need you to come. I have complete faith that you can heal him from where you are. It's amazing faith. He's this Roman centurion. He's obviously come into contact with Jesus, and he's convinced this guy's from God. He's, it's unlikely he'd have a very deep understanding of what the Messiah is and what Jesus would go on to do, but he recognizes that this guy's special. And he says, look, I know how authority works, and I know you have the authority to do this. And so Jesus is amazed at his faith and heals the what is it his servant? One of his servants is paralyzed, and so Jesus heals him from a distance, and he goes home, and it's come to pass. But this is just a brain explosion for the disciples, right? So, it's Jesus is starting this kingdom, right? He says, like and he's inviting people to follow him, and first it was like, Jesus is not going to the powerful, he's going to the broken and the people who need healing. And okay, so what type of kingdom is this going to be? And they're allowed to follow Jesus, and then he heals a leper. And so lepers are these people that, to their best understanding, aren't they excluded from worshiping God in their society? And then Jesus affirms him and touches him and heals him. Okay, so this kingdom is open to lepers. All right, cool. Maybe we can absorb that. And now a Roman centurion shows faith, and Jesus affirms that faith. And you can just wonder if they looked at each other and went, don't tell me this kingdom is going to have Romans in it. These are the people oppressing the Jews, oppressing Jesus's own people, and they're allowed. Jesus is praising his faith. They, all their preconceptions of who God is for and against and who can come follow Jesus are being smashed. But it really, if you are reading this gospel, you cannot miss the message, surely. If you were reading the Gospel of Matthew for the first time, this account of Jesus, you've never come across Jesus before and you're still trying to grasp it, surely what screams off the pages is that, well, this is whatever, this thing Jesus is doing, this thing he's calling people to get on board with. It's not for any one tribe, it's not for any one nation, it's not for any one tongue, it's not for any one people, it's not for churchy people or rich people or poor people. It's for anyone who wants to come. Anyone who wants to come. Remember, last week we talked about the humble posture of the leper. God is willing to cleanse if we're just humble and we come to him with the fact that we know we need him to make us whole. We know we need forgiving. We know we need cleansing. This guy's got that posture as well. He starts in verse 8, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. He knows there's mess in his life. He knows he needs God's forgiveness. And, when we approach God with that attitude, even if you're a Roman centurion, you can come to Jesus. You can show faith in Jesus. And Jesus affirms his faith. It's so, this is just smashing boundaries. It's not the main thing we're going to focus on today, but if you're watching this and you still have this voice inside your head that somehow thinks you're not welcome in the God crowd, like somehow this whole thing to do with Jesus is for another type of person, maybe a more churchy person, or I don't know what goes in your head. But the good news is the writers of the Bible at this point are trying to get through to you and say, no, absolutely. If you want to follow Jesus from where you're at, you can come to him. You can come to him. You can be forgiven. You can be cleansed. And you are welcome to follow Jesus. Whoever believes in him shall not die, but have everlasting life. You can get on the road and follow him today, and and you can get a fresh start. Jesus went to the cross and died so that you could have that fresh start, and he can forgive and cleanse you today. So, that's just where we want to start, and we're starting off where we left off last week, really, aren't we? Anyone can come. Anyone can come. The second thing I want to bring out is the doubtless faith of this man. He doesn't need any special extra sign. He's just like, I have this servant at home who needs healing. Jesus is like, shall I come and heal him? I know you don't need to do that. I have complete faith that you have the authority to do this. That's doubtless faith. And that sort of faith is the most beautiful, empowering sort of faith we are all called to. And it doesn't just apply to whether we believe God can heal, whether God does heal or not in any situation. Do we have faith that God can heal? We have no doubt he can. but it applies to all of God's truth and how we live our lives. I mean, a lot of you will tell me that God has forgiven you. You know He's died on the cross for you. You know you're cleansed, but there's still doubt in your head about whether whether He really sees you with gracious eyes. Perhaps you're not quite as good as those other forgiven people, which is a weird way to think. Or do you believe with no doubt that if you cast all your cares upon Jesus and let them go, that you'll have His peace as He promises? Cast all your anxieties on me and you'll have my peace. It's a promise in Scripture. Do you just live like it's true? Do you just believe without question that God is at work for your good as someone who loves Him? I mean, God is at work for the good of all those who love Him. In every circumstance, do you carry that absolute assurance? And I suppose it's that sort of doubtless faith that we're called to. And I think, if you're someone who is yet to follow Jesus, be assured that have complete faith in what He says. That if you put your faith in Him and follow Him, He'll cleanse you, He'll forgive you, you will be fully forgiven, you will have eternal life, and you'll start the greatest adventure of your life that will go on forever. So first point was, anyone can come. Second point was, do you have doubtless faith like this guy? It's amazing faith. The third point is, don't miss out on Jesus. Don't miss out on Jesus. Jesus, after He experiences this amazing faith, and it says Jesus was amazed, which is pretty incredible. That it just goes to show just how incredible this guy's faith was. Jesus, it says He was amazed, and He said to those following Him in verse 10 through to 12, "Truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." The irony of this Roman coming to Jesus and showing faith in Him as God was that there were so many of Jesus' own people. Some of them were religious people that had rejected Him or didn't believe in Him and who He was. And the warning is there, isn't it? That it says the subjects of the kingdom will be thrown outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's that this very clear warning. It's that this beautiful thing that is open to Roman, open to leper, open to you, open to His own people. This wonderful thing, you don't want to miss out on it. You don't want to miss out on it. It's a perilous thing to miss out on. This is God coming to us, arms wide open, inviting us to be in relationship with Him, inviting us to embrace our life's purpose, which is, we are designed to be in relationship with God, and willing to go through the cost of forgiving us and bringing us near. It's the most loving, wonderful invitation. And all I want to say is, we reject that at our peril. We reject that at our peril. So if you have the call on your life to follow Jesus and you've responded to that, awesome. But if you're someone still working it out, can I implore you, continue to work it out. Don't get lazy on it. Ask all your questions. Really discover Jesus for yourself. It's a beautiful life you're being invited into, but don't let it go. Really search and search until you find, because you will see just how amazing Jesus is, and that His invitation is for you, and you can follow Him, and you can follow Him with your whole life, and you can be part of His people, His forever people, His eternal life people, His people the thing that he's starting, that we're reading about here in Matthew's gospel, this people that has continued today, all the way to today. You can be part of that, absolutely. Yeah, sorry for this weird cut. It's all happening today. Camera falling over, weird cut. But yeah, just want to go on from there. So we see that Jesus is building something that's open to anyone, open to across boundaries of all sorts of boundaries, tribes, nations, tongues. Jesus goes on to have invite all sorts of people to follow him, and all sorts of people do, and all sorts of people also reject him. He leaves and he gets his disciples, while he's alive, to go and invite people to follow Jesus as well. But also after he has died and rose again, he commissions this small group of followers that he's assembled to go and continue to invite people to follow him. I mean, he promises his Holy Spirit, and they're going to witness to the ends of the earth, and he promises to build his church, and he commissions his followers to go out and look and invite others to follow him too. We've talked about all this at church, and we shouldn't be surprised that Jesus, through his followers, kept his word. I mean, there are people in every country. Well, I don't know. That's probably true. At least all over the world, there are people following Jesus. There's a little church in St. Clair following Jesus. There's it's across many languages, and from that little group. And some of the countries where it's thriving, like China, it's persecuted and it's illegal, and yet Jesus is keeping his promise. And it was Jesus who said the harvest is plentiful. There are people everywhere soft towards God, and because God is still building his church, and he while Jesus hasn't come back yet to take us home, he's still building his church. And that's also true in our country. That's also true amongst your friends. That's also true amongst your workplace. He is at work. And so I wanted to revisit some of the principles we talked about recently at church, about what does it look like for us to engage our world, the people in our world, and engage in this wonderful thing we're invited to do, where we invite others to follow Jesus. So many Western Christians have put away sharing their faith. And there's all these sorts of reasons with that, and we know that's true because while the church is thriving in other places, in Australia, it's at least in numbers wise, it's been in 7 decades of decline. But I think we need to go back to some key principles so that we can just re-engage with sharing our faith. And with full faith that God is at work. God is at work in your family and friends and in your workplace. He is. And there are people who are soft towards God. So if God's already at work in people, how do we at first identify the people he's already at work in, and how do we go about giving them an opportunity to follow Jesus? And so we're going to revisit these principles that we've talked about, and they might be new for you if you missed them when we talked about them before. But remember, the idea is to move in a way that believes God's already at work, and also move in a way that actually imitates the way Jesus and his disciples invited people to follow him. And so we looked at these 3 steps that anyone can do. Anyone who's a follower of Jesus can do these steps, and they are based on how Jesus sent out his disciples when it came to sending them out to invite people to follow Jesus. And so the 3 steps are this, love and serve everyone. And the second step is identify and invest in people of peace, and we'll explore that. And the third one is provide an opportunity to respond to God. And the number one method I suggest is to simply ask them if they'd like to read the Bible with you. And don't even bother taking on the teacher expert posture, but just ask them to read the Bible with you. So let's revisit these steps. So number 1, love and serve everyone, is all about your general posture towards your life. You know, we as followers of Jesus by nature should be people of love and service, and sometimes that's to close friends, but sometimes, you know, we're called to be like that to people we hardly know, or spontaneously on the spot, or even sometimes to our enemies. We should be people who extend love and service. So that's just talking about our general posture. I don't mean love and serve everyone as in you can't actually literally love and serve everyone. We're just talking about our general posture towards people. So that's kind of ground zero. And then what we need to do is identify and invest in the people of peace in our life. What is a person of peace? So Jesus, when he sent out his disciples, said, you know, there are people who are going to welcome you and people who won't. People who will be interested in what you're saying and people who don't. And there will be people who actually will want to serve you and people who won't. And Jesus said, look, I want you to actually stay with and invest in the people who like you, who listen to you and serve you. And so, you know, who are the people in your life that, look, they know you're a person of faith, and they still like you. They might even listen to you a bit more and lean in a bit more because you're a person of faith, and they're willing to serve you. They're actually wanting to serve you and show favor towards you. Look, that's a sign God's already at work in that person. That's the lens Jesus gave his disciples, you know, like he's teaching them to discern where is it worth investing. Look, if there's someone who likes you and listens to you and serves you, they're probably a person of peace in your life who God is calling you to invest in. And to kind of make the point, there are some people who are your close friends but aren't people of peace when it comes to your faith. You know, there are people who they might be, like I've got friends who, you know, they're friends, but because I'm a person of faith, they probably listen to me less. You know, and so, but there are certainly people in my life who like me, listen to me, serve me, and know I'm a person of faith, and so that's a sign that that's a person of peace. So we love and serve everyone. We identify and we invest in a person of peace. And by invest, I mean start by praying for them. Oh, if they're a person of peace in my life, I better start praying for them. And then set up some patterns where your life is actually involved in their lives. I mean, you can't be involved in everyone's life. So here's a little way of stewarding your energy, you know. Invest in the people of peace in your life. Be present in their lives. And the third one is to provide an opportunity to respond to God. Now, there's many ways this can look. I mean, and some of you have methods that really, you've engaged with and you're comfortable with them. Like you might just go out and just share your story and your faith, or you might invite them to church or ask them to watch something with you. But one of the ways I'm going to suggest to you that has had a lot of, I guess, success in the Australian context is to kind of go a slower approach and just ask them to read the Bible with you. It's like if, you know, you kind of pray for them and then just say, hey, would you want to read the Bible with me sometime? You know, I've kind of used this method in my life, and it's really good because it's no pressure. You don't have to be an expert, and you get to just explore the Bible with them. And when you do that, you kind of follow the ABC method. So ask, Bible, commitment. In your first session, you start at B. So you read the Bible with them, you know, and you rather than be a teacher, just ask them, what do you see? You know, anything jump out at you? What do you notice? If you feel it's appropriate, you can even say, look, do you think God's saying anything to you? And then, you know, when it's appropriate, whenever they share something, just say, hey, what might it look like if you do respond to that this week? Or what might you do about that this week? Give them a chance to respond to something they've come across. And then at the start of your next session, just ask them, hey, well, how'd you go with that? Add some basic accountability. And what you're doing is you're discerning if they are a person of peace. Because if they are a person of peace, they're going to be open to God, and if they're open to God, God's going to reveal things to them. And it may start in a weird place that you're not expecting. It may start with God will start speaking to them about how they're treating their spouse or how they're going at work. Just go with that. Let them discover. You know, look, you can imagine if you're reading like one of the Gospels where it talks about Jesus, for instance, eventually you'll read about lots of things that are key for faith, but just go on a journey with them and don't feel any pressure to be the expert. If they have any questions and they ask you and you don't know, I mean, Say, oh, look, man, that's a good question. Let's ask someone together, or I'll get back to you. Like, sometimes we add pressure that doesn't need to be there. What you've offered is to read the Bible with them. You know, I've been shown stuff to show that this is really working with a lot of Australians. And what you're doing is rather than overthinking it and saying, oh, but when will I introduce this and when will I introduce that? What you've done is you've set up a situation where Jesus can start to work. If they are a person of peace, Jesus can start to work in that person's life. So love and serve everyone, identify, invest in people of peace, and provide people with an opportunity to respond to God. And the number one way that I would invite you to do that is like I would suggest, but you know, you can do other things, is ask them if they'd just like to read the Bible with you. And you know, like, if they are a person of peace, the worst that will happen is they say no. And because they're a person of peace, it's probably unlikely going to hurt your friendship. I mean, there's a guy and he's from a big church where they really push this method, and you know, like, we're talking hundreds of people reading the Bible with pre-Christian people, and he says he's yet to know of a situation where someone asked that question to a person of peace and it destroyed the friendship. So, you know, really, really pray that you might try that, especially if you're stuck on this and you feel a bit like intimidated on reaching out to people, because God can use you. God can use you to bring someone to Christ. So there's 2 actions that you might do in response to this if you're listening to this. Well, 3 actions really. So the first one being that if you're someone who's yet to follow Jesus, look, please consider following him today. If you're listening to this, you're a pre-Christian person, you're not yet to take that plunge of following Jesus, we encourage you to do that. But if you're someone who already does follow Jesus, I've got 2 steps that'll come up on the screen that are steps, you know, are steps you can take in response to this. Number 1 is you can just list the people of peace in your life and start to pray for them. Who are the people you're uniquely positioned to reach? The people that like, listen, and serve you. They're people of peace to you, not me, because they don't like, listen, and serve me. They like, listen, and serve you. So, so they're the people that you're called to invest in, not me. So list the people of peace in your life and just start praying for them and think about ways you can invest in them. Right? Do something. Take that step. That's a good step, right? Second step you can do is, look, ask a person of peace to read the Bible with you. You know, if you're feeling a bit stuck, I just want you to really try that. And look, this is something that's just true, right? The journey to us being people who are comfortable sharing our faith involves us trying to share our faith. You know, it's like, if you want to be a good electrician, you can read 1 billion books on being a good electrician, but until you pick up the tools, until you deal with electricity, you won't get there, right? You've got to get on the road. And so if you're like sitting there going, and one of the tricks your mind plays on you is, I just need to learn a bit more about how this reading the Bible works, or I just need to, you know, like, and so you get stuck in this theory cycle. The path to God meeting you and you partnering with what God's already doing in the people around you is you taking a step. Just taking a step. Just taking a bold step. And, you know, you may stuff it up or it may go really well. You know, Jesus had a high tolerance for failure with his disciples. In fact, failure was part of their training, and then they would learn and he would continue to love them. This is about getting on the road and taking a step. And I would just encourage you to take a step, because here's the thing about the people of peace concept. You know, and I just mentioned it earlier, the people of peace in my life are only people of peace to me, right? They like, listen, and serve me. God's calling me to invest in them. I should ask them to read the Bible with me. And isn't it cool, and yet a little bit, whoa, that there are people in your life you're uniquely positioned to reach. The people of peace in your life. And so, look, I really do pray that there are people listening to this today who will take a risk. Even in this season, it's a good season actually, because people have been disrupted and they're searching and they don't have their usual things to hide in, like sport. Maybe this week you might take the step of listing people of peace and starting to pray for them and thinking of how you can be in their lives. And then, or you might even take the step and say, hey, you can say no, but I was just wondering if you wanted to read the Bible with me, or I've been looking for someone to read a Bible with, would you mind? And the thing is, if you still feel unsure about what to do after that point, that shouldn't stop you asking. Because, just picture it. You ask them and they say yes. All right, so you're going to start in 2 weeks. I can chat to you about what you might do if you're feeling unsure. You've still got so long to do. Don't let your inner talk kind of rob you from taking a step. Jesus can walk with us and empower us if we take steps. And so please consider taking a step today to seeing the people in your world come to know Jesus, having faith that Jesus can use you. Jesus can use you to bring people to himself. All right, I'm going to pray in a moment. Look, I'm going to pray, and the prayer will come up on the screen. And it's going to be kind of a twofold prayer. The first part is going to be a part that if you're a new Christian or an old Christian or someone who wants to become a Christian, it's a good thing to pray. And if you ever pray like the first 2 lines of the prayer for the first time, I just encourage you to let someone know. And so we can celebrate with you making that bold step. But they're good lines for us to pray. It's Jesus, I know I'm guilty of ignoring you and putting myself first. I choose to come to you and ask you would cleanse and forgive me as I want to follow you and be yours. Always good to pray and re-pray lines like that. But the third prayer is one I'd like us who are followers of Jesus already to pray, and said, Lord, give us eyes to see the people of peace in our life and cause us to reach out to them so that they too may have the opportunity of knowing you. All right, can I pray that now? Jesus, I know I'm guilty of ignoring you and putting myself first. I choose to come to you and ask you would cleanse and forgive me as I want to follow you and be yours. Lord, give us eyes to see the people of peace in our life and cause us to reach out to them so that they may too have the opportunity of knowing Jesus. Amen.